Okay. Shalom, everyone, and welcome to week 39 of Coffee and Connection. I really want to give so much credit to all of you, especially if you're showing up live and anyone even who's listening to the recording, because oh my gosh, are things crazy right now? Are things hectic? Is there so much to do and not so much time to fit it in? It's crazy. It really is. There is so much. I was trying to explain to my coach how crazy this time of year is. I'm like, you don't understand. It's like Arab this and Arab that. And I had to explain to her how crazy Arabs are. And oh my gosh, it's just there is so much on our plate right now. And so my intention for this call is in these minutes, in these few minutes, these time that we're taking for ourselves right now to make sure that this makes a real difference for you so that you can deal with all the craziness of the month in a way that you don't end up going crazy. Okay. Now, what I can't promise is that it won't be crazy because it will be crazy. And that's part of life, right? That's part of the craziness of life. I always tell my clients that we're not going for a place of perfection. We're never aiming for perfection, everything always being amazing, because that's just not real. And if we aim for perfection and always happy and everything always lovey-dovey in our house, then anytime things don't feel exactly like that, we're going to think that there's something wrong. We're going to beat ourselves up. We're going to think that there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with you, there's something wrong with us. That's why it doesn't really serve us, it doesn't help us to aim and expect perfection. What we want instead, what we want instead, what we're aiming for is the ability to deal with the flows of life, to deal with the normal struggles and issues in life in a way that, yes, there's less downs and more ups, for sure, right? And that we can weather those downs, that when we struggle, whether it's in our relationship, whether there's something we don't like that our husband says or does, whether we're struggling in our relationship with our kids or Hashem or with our friends or our parents, or whether we are dealing with the craziness that goes on around any of the Chagim time, that we can manage. We can handle it in a way where we can still be the women we want to be. So, what I want to share with you right now are 3 tools that I'm really going to invite you to use as you go through this crazy month, crazier than usual, and also be able to not just deal with it, but ride it and enjoy it and be able to benefit from the amazing power that this month holds. Okay. So let's just before we before we got dive into the tools, let me answer which kind of craziness I'm talking about, because there's so many different ways that the craziness can express itself. But I want to talk about that crazy feeling of overwhelm that you may relate to, right? Where, an Erev Shabbos or an Erev Chag where there's so much to do and it feels like time is just ticking and running out and there's so much to do and maybe it feels like not everyone's helping you. You're doing it by yourself and you're stressed about that. And with that is like that feeling of Shabbos is coming, or more, even more, Yom Kippur is coming, or Sukkot is coming, and I, all I'm worried about is the food. All I'm worried about is are the dishes washed. All I'm worried about is the laundry put away. Can I take some, like, what about the fact that it's Yom Kippur? I'm not even processing that, right? And then suddenly we're standing there in front of our machzor and we're like, wait, what am I supposed to be thinking? What am I supposed to be feeling, right? Or it's like Sukkot and we're like, can't even like get into that headspace. So there's the, how do I make sure that I deal with the craziness in a way where I can be who I want to be while also being able to enjoy it and live it and allow it to like make the have the effect on me that it's meant to have, right? We're not just meant to be slaves in the kitchen, ladies, right? We're meant to also experience and gain from the Chagim and from every Shabbos and from our lives as Jewish women. So here's my 3 top tools that I'm going to share with you, that I'm going to be practicing with you, because this is hard. This is, like I said, a crazy time. Number one, and I think this is first and foremost, and the truth is, you're all already practicing it right now. So I may be preaching to the choir, but number one is, don't forget about you. If you know that you're going to get to Yom Kippur feeling like, wait, I didn't even think about tshuva, or you're going to feel resentful when everyone else has their new outfit for Yantif, or has, the food that they want to eat for Yantif, or that everyone else got to prepare and you didn't. Everyone else got their nap. Everyone else, got to like rest. Anything that's going to make you resentful, that tells you that that's something that you want, and that's something that's important to you. And I'm going to invite you to take the time to do it. Because remember that with everything else that matters, as you're getting ready for everything, you also matter. Your relationship with Hashem matters. Your state of mind matters. And that is important to tell ourselves over and over and over again, because it's easy to say, forget, like, sleep, I can't sleep, I gotta fold all the baskets of laundry, or listen to a shir on Yom Kippur, I can't do that, I have to, for me it's always like, I gotta put the music on for my kids, or I got to do something, I gotta talk to someone, I gotta take care of things. And it's so important for us to realize that when we end up frustrated, resentful, exhausted, feeling lost in just food prep and laundry and all of that, no one's benefiting. No one benefits. We don't benefit, for sure. And it's not like our family benefits either, because they'll feel that resentment. We'll end up taking it out on them somehow, right? Has anyone ever succeeded on not letting their resentment out eventually? I'm not raising my hand. I'm not able to. If we feel resentment, it's going to come out somewhere. And that's why we need to not only work through our resentment as it's happening so that it doesn't come out on people, but also be aware of what causes resentment, so that then we can take action for that resentment not to happen in the first place. If I'm going to be resentful that my husband takes a nap Erev Shabbos, then it's important for me to also take a nap, or at least to choose how I'm going to spend some of my time. Maybe I'll choose to, sit and have a coffee instead of taking a nap, or maybe I'll choose to call my mother, or maybe I'll choose to do my learning in the morning instead, but I'm going to feel that part of the day is my choice of how I'm going to spend it, right? That's really important to do. And to take that time that you need to make your day spiritual as well, to make it meaningful to you, okay? And often it's true that we are always excused from a lot of this stuff, right? We're too busy to daven, we're too busy to learn, we have too much going on. It's true, we can always say, I can't. And nobody would say that you're wrong, right? But the thing you want to look at is, how does it end up impacting me? Like, what if I do take those 5 minutes to think about what I want to work on over the coming year? Or I take 5 minutes to think about what I don't think worked for me over the last year? What if I take the 10 minutes to daven mincha on Erev Yom Kippur? How much better will that make me feel? What if I take the time while I'm folding laundry or washing dishes or whatever to say, let me listen to that shir I've been wanting to catch, right? Even if it's only a little bit. And even if the kids are like, hey, but I want to listen to something, or it's okay. You also matter. And taking that time for yourself is going to be really important. Making your physical, spiritual, emotional, desires or needs also a priority. Okay? That's number one. Number two is what I'm really going to invite you to recognize is that a lot of the time, if we're talking about the frustration that happens because others aren't helping us, right? Where we feel alone. I'm the only one getting ready for Yantif. I'm the only one preparing for Shabbos. No one else is helping me. It can be a very lonely feeling. It is, and it's frustrating. What I'm going to invite you to practice even a little bit is realizing that a lot of times where that's coming from is an expectation that others will jump in and help us, an expectation that our husband will just know what we need done, an expectation that our kids will just come home and clean up the whole house, right? And with that expectation, not only do we end up not asking for help, but when we do end up asking for help, it can come with a very negative and needy tone in terms of like, I need you to do this. And if you say no, I may roll my eyes. I may get upset. I may be very frustrated because by the time I ask, I'm already in a very needy, depleted, frustrated place. So, what I'm going to invite you to do is actually look to partner with your husband, to partner, especially with your husband, to partner with him and be able to say, this is what I eat, to ask him for what it is that you need, what it is that you want, what it is that could help you. But part partnering is recognizing that the other person, just like you can't do that thing in that moment, he may not be able to either. And giving him that space to say, I can't, recognizing that his plate is probably also really full right now. And that's part of partnering. And this is where a lot of us get messed up, that we think, okay, I'll ask, right? But then when we ask, it's with so much frustration and so much heaviness and so much expectation that if then our husband says no, we're devastated, we're hurt, we feel angry. It's very important to remember that our husbands have their own stuff going on as well. And that's why, even better than saying in the moment, can you do this? And even better, don't say can, will, and don't say the just, right? We've gone through all this stuff about asking for help. Would you be able to help me with this? If you could say it in advance, if even today, tomorrow, you could say, okay, I'd really like, I'm trying to get everything done. Would you be able to do some of the shopping for me? Would you be able to do some laundry or put the dishes away or whatever, so that he can then fit it into his schedule that he probably has going on in his head? Would you be able to pick up the kids from school? That way he can set it up into his schedule so that he'd be able to do it. Right? I'm sure we all have had this in our lives where someone says, oh, would you be able to do X, Y, and Z for me? And you're like, if only I knew that yesterday, I could have, structured my whole day differently so that I'd be able to do that. So that's why it is part of partnering is not just springing things on people in the last moment. It's recognizing that they have their own stuff going on. And of course, it's also asking. Because when we just expect, when we just assume, this just happened to me on Friday. I remember I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed. There was like a lot of stuff that needed to get done. And I kind of looked at my husband, and in that moment, he wasn't really doing anything to get ready for Shabbos. And I was like, and I was trying to think like, wait, like part of my brain was going, why aren't you doing anything? And then the other part of my brain was going, what specifically would you like him to do right now? And I realized that everything on that list was something that it's something that I do. And I didn't even feel like I could ask him. It wasn't even something I would ask him because it's something that is in my, it's something I do. So then then I have to remind myself, of course, there are things that he does, right? And I could ask, but I chose that each of the things I had on my list were really things I wanted to do, right? They weren't things that he would do. And when there was something that he could do, So then I asked, oh, would you unload the dishwasher? I want to refill it. And he said, yeah, I can do that in this amount of time. Great. Right. So often we're feeling overwhelmed and saying, well, why aren't you helping me? We have to look at, well, number one, what is he doing? Is he also doing something that's important? That's also part of partnering, right? Partnering with your spouse is realizing that as much as I have my crazy list of stuff to do, he also has his crazy list of stuff to do. So this is already the third tool, right? We have to actually ask for help, and then we have that recognition of what partnering actually means. When I'm partnering with my husband, that doesn't just mean that my list is important. It means you also have your list. Your list may include your meetings, your work you need to get done, your davening. If it's Erev Yom Kippur, oh my gosh, there's so much. I know my husband's got so much to do on Erev Yom Kippur. There's mikvah and getting the kaparot set up and mincha and what else? There's like a million things on that list besides his own stuff and his own whatever, his work, his this, his that. There's a million things to do that even if I'm doing a million things, it doesn't mean that he's not. We're partnering. We're each doing our work side by side, right? Connecto. We're opposite. We are side by side, each doing our avoda. And if then there's something that like, oh my gosh, he's not going to do it, I can't do it, some things just might not get done. Remember, we're not going for perfection. That also means that our house isn't always going to be perfect, and all the food isn't necessarily going to be made or be perfect or everything exactly. There are certain things that need to get done. There are certain things that we need to do so we can make that our priority and do it first. And everything else, it's important to remember that we are not perfect. Our husbands are not our slaves. They can't do everything. And everyone is doing their best, right? So between those three things, I invite you to consider how that may shift the energy in your heart, the energy in your head, the energy in your home, when you take the time to take care of yourself, when you ask for the help that you need instead of just expecting it and getting frustrated about it, and when you see yourself as you and your husband as partners in your avoda, in your responsibilities, in your actions, then all of those together can help minimize the resentment, minimize the negativity, and create more connection even in the craziness. And those are always my favorite victories. When a woman shares with me the victory of everything, this was the crazy victory that we had on Erev Pesach, or this was the crazy victory that happened on Erev Sukkot, or, in the middle of like crazy making a simcha. Those are the most important, because when we can deal with the stressful situations where there's so much going on, and usually we know that those are going to be the worst times in our home, and instead we can deal with it in a way that is lighter, a way that is connecting, in a way where we can smile at each other while all the craziness is happening, and give each other like that leeway of, I know you might get a little stressed right now, and I might get a little stressed, and wait, let me take care of myself, and let me like give you space to take care of yourself. It really changes the whole energy of the whole month, and can allow you, because really it's a month of Erevs, and can allow you to actually enjoy and celebrate the holidays instead of any feeling, chas v'shalom, of dread, or just waiting for it to be over, right? I knew that I needed to change the way I was celebrating Pesach when I was waiting for Pesach to be over, because I was so scared of chametz, like to such an nth degree that it was like, oh good, Pesach's almost over, right? I was like, this is not okay. Like there's no simcha here. We're not supposed to be waiting for it to be over. We shouldn't be counting down the days until Shabbos Bereshit, when we can go back to our normal schedule. If we are, then we want to take an inventory of ourselves and say, what is causing me so much stress, so that I can deal with that stress. I can deal with that issue. That is the hurdle that perhaps is exactly what I need to work on this year, right? When we're aware of our challenges, they give us our path to exactly what we need to work on, right? So let me just look quickly to the questions that came up. We had the situation on Rosh Hashanah and we had guests. I was frustrated and asked for help in front of everyone and embarrassed him. How could I do it differently? That's a great question. So as far as I understand the question, you're saying that you asked him for help and he was embarrassed that you asked in front of everyone. I don't know if he said yes. I don't know if he said no. There's a difference. Very likely what makes a difference here is the way that we ask. Okay. This is something that I quote my husband on. He says that very often the way that women ask for help, they ask for help in a way that their husband feels like, if I say no, I'm going to be a jerk. And no husband wants to be a jerk. So as soon as she asks in that way, he starts to feel manipulated because he feels like either I say yes or I'm a jerk. Well, like there's no space for him to just be able to say, I can't, or to even make that choice freely. So it's really important, and it can be very hard when we are really stressed, which is why we want to help ourselves not get to that place of, I need you, right? To be able to ask from a place of desire, ask from a respectful place of, would you be able to do this? Will you do this? And no just. As soon as we say the word just, we take all the air out of the sails in like terms of like inspiring him to want to help us, because just means it's not a big deal. So if you say no, you really are a jerk. And if you say yes, it's not really a big deal because it was just that. And let's be honest, it's not just. If it was just, you would do it yourself. So as much as we can limit the word just from our vocabulary is great. And to really ask from a place of inquiry, would you be able to help me? And then if he says no, being able to say, okay, so let me figure out how else I could do it, right? It's so much of it is the energy. If we embarrass anyone, it's because of the energy we ask with. Often we end up feeling like we embarrassed ourselves, right? Oh my gosh, like my husband doesn't help me. My husband doesn't listen to me. But like our husbands aren't meant to listen to us. We're not telling them what to do, right? They're not our children, they're our partner. So, would you be able to do this? I know I can't. So maybe you can't either. Would you be able to? And if he says no, like that's okay. You also can't, right? So let me know if that answers your question. I'll go to the next question. In order to ask for scheduled help, I first need to plan to need help instead of planning to try to do everything on my own. Exactly. You got it. You rock that one, right? So that's exactly it. If we think that we're going to be able to do everything on our own, if we plan for perfection, that's when we end up in that like state where like we start yelling like a crazy woman saying, you do this and you do that, and why isn't anyone helping me, and I feel like I'm going crazy, and all of that. But if we already know, look, this is how I want my day to go. First and foremost, I want to be this kind of woman. First and foremost, I want to make sure, let's take Erev Yom Kippur. I know first and foremost, I want to daven mincha Erev Yom Kippur, not like a crazy woman right before I eat and I rush and this and that. So how can we plan that in? How can I plan it in? Maybe I plan to daven mincha the earliest. I'm speaking to myself here too. I always, no matter what, I find I'm always rushing through the mincha erev Yom Kippur, like right before I eat, and I have to eat quickly because then I have to do kapara, and it's just crazy. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why not plan? I'll do mincha at 1:30 or whatever time I can. Then I want to make sure that I get my shower. I want to make sure that I eat properly, 3 meals a day, maybe 4. I want to get them all in before the fast. So, okay, and what am I going to make? Let's plan the menu and think of, what do I actually need to make? And what are the extras that nobody really needs, right? That is not going to help anyone. And how can I make sure that I drink throughout the day? And how can I make sure that I like plan in those things? Maybe we make things the day before. Maybe we don't. I'm not a big cook cook the day before person, but maybe we do if that will help us, right? But really figuring out how much food do we actually need, right? What do we actually need to make? What can we buy? What can we do away with, right? No one needs dessert on Erev Yom Kippur. I'm a big believer in that. No one needs dessert. If you still have room, eat another piece of chicken, eat some more vegetables, drink some more water, right? Nobody needs, we don't need to make dessert. Or maybe that's something that we can give to our kids to do. Maybe we can let go of an expectation that all laundry will be done and put away before Yom Kippur. Like, really ask ourselves, what do I really need? Make a list, check things off. I actually was going through an old notebook of mine from years ago, and I was looking at the list that I had written of like what I was going to do Erev Yom Kippur, and I put on that list like nurse the baby, right? Like reminder, like I also have to do that today. I also have to eat lunch, right? Make sure we're planning our day in accordance with reality so that we then don't all of a sudden get thrown like, oh my gosh, I didn't even have time to daven mincha, or I didn't even have time to make the food I wanted to eat today. And now I don't feel ready for the fast, right? Or I was so busy all day, I didn't drink any water. Right? By the way, we should all be drinking already, right? We should all be drinking already. Rushing to wash dishes before shul. Thank you. Yeah, yes. Oh, so you're saying eat on nice paper plates, Erev Yom Kippur. Yes, that's amazing. Who needs to be washing dishes before we go to shul? Use paper serving, or just serve buffet, right? Buffet and paper plates, and then you throw everything in the garbage and you can go to shul or get on the couch, right? Depending on how you're spending your Yom Kippur. Whatever you need to do. And planning that in so you're not, it's like we've all been there before. Baruch Hashem, this is not our first Yom Kippur. So we can already think, what has worked for me in the past? What hasn't worked for me in the past? Right? Where am I always scrambling? Like I just said, for me, I know I always scramble for mincha. And I am going to take out my phone as soon as this is done and schedule it in to say mincha for Yom Kippur be'ezrat Hashem. You can all hold me accountable to this. As soon as it's what was plug a mincha? No, that's later. As soon as it's time for to daven mincha, I'm going to daven mincha, because why not? Right? Why make it so crazy for ourselves? So I invite each of you to think of at least one thing that you can put in your phone right after we're done, or write it down. If you still are old school like that, I respect that. I love writing things down, but then I don't look at it. So I have to put everything in my phone. Commit to something that you know will make your Yom Kippur better, your Erev Yom Kippur better. And then think of that like just for the full year. What are you going to do every Erev Shabbos to make it different? Is there something you're going to start actually asking your husband respectfully if he can take on? Is there a different mindset you can have about what he's doing on Friday that will just take away all the lachatz you put on yourself and on him, and about in the way that you're looking at him? Is there something you can let go of, like the laundry, or making 5 desserts, or or is there something you can add on? Like saying, I'm always going to do something for myself Friday morning. I'm always going to make sure I take a nap, or I exercise, or I learn, or I daven, or I listen to music while I'm cooking. Like, let's think for ourselves, what can we do in each of these realms to really make a difference? Because for many of us, that will change our year. That will change the whole energy in our home. That will change the way we connect with our husbands, the way we connect with our kids. The culture of our home, the way we feel about Shabbos will change if we can make some change in the way we conduct ourselves on Erev Shabbos. So now we have a bunch of practice. We have a lot of opportunities to think and get curious and look at our Fridays, look at all our Erev Chags, and saying, what's not working? And what's one little tweak that I'm going to do, that I can make to change that, right? so everyone can see for themselves. One woman saying she's going to do the cooking tomorrow and not on Erev Yom Kippur. That is great if that works for you. Kol hakavod. I love that commitment. Amazing. I know Rifki said she's going to eat on paper plates. And yes, taking care of yourself is it's a very important thing to remember to do. So I want to, before I sign off, and wish you all a Gemar Chatzima Tova. I really want to wish you a Gemar Chatzima Tova. It should be a Shana Tova U'Metzika. I want to ask for Mechila if I hurt anyone, if I didn't get back to you, if I was late, if I said something that upset you or hurt you in any way. I want to ask Mechila from you. I also want to. I'm excited. I really, really am looking forward to having a coffee and connection in the sukkah this year. So Bezrat Hashem, I do want to have coffee and connection. It will either be Wednesday or Thursday night my time. The truth is, I can't. I asked my husband like right before, what time? When should I do coffee connection in the sukkah? I have no idea what's going to be on sukkahs. I have no idea who's going to be in our sukkah, what we're planning. But Bezrat Hashem, I will let you know Wednesday or Thursday what time, like the day and the time of coffee and connection. And I would love to connect with all of you from inside of our sukkah, Be'ezrat Hashem. And yeah, it's Be'ezrat Hashem. It should be. I'm excited about that. We'll have some coffee. Maybe we'll have some alachayim. Maybe we'll just connect from the simcha of the sukkah, which is really such a beautiful place. I can't wait to connect with all of you and talk about connection in the sukkah. And I'll just leave you with this one thought, which is a really one of my favorite ideas on the connection between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, and can really help us understand connection. Often we think of it as, after the simcha of Rosh Hashanah and seeing who we want to be, and then the tshuva that follows Yom Kippur, we are just so happy that we want to go in the sukkah and just like give Hashem a hug, right? And just like be with him, just like be with the Shekhinah all sukkahs. And I love that. I love that idea. It's so beautiful. And I also want to share with you another way of looking at it, which is that what if, and this is in the name, one of my rabbis, Rabbi Menachem Liebtag shares this. He says, what if we look at it as maybe the sukkah is the essence, the sukkah, being able to dwell with Hashem in the Shekhinah, to like live with the Shekhinah, and which we then take into our homes, ladies, after Sukkot is over, right? To live with the Shekhinah is so holy, and so we live so closely with Hashem in the sukkah that before we can get to the sukkah, we have to purify ourselves. We have to take account of ourselves. We have to mitaher ourselves. And that's why we need Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to then be able to go into the sukkah, which is just such a beautiful message when we think about it. What does it mean? How can we attain true connection, whether it's connection with Hashem, connection with our husbands, connection with our families, with ourselves? If we want true connection, we have to look at who are we being and what are we doing, right? Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Who are we being and what are we doing that may be getting in the way of that connection? We have to be aware. We have to be real. We have to be truthful about what may be a barrier between us and the connection that we want to have. And Bezrat Hashem, I bless us all that the coming year should be one where we break through barriers and we recognize what's holding us back and we work through it so that we can all have the connection, the closeness, the peace, the joy, the happiness that we long for. Bezrat Hashem in the Beit HaMikdash and in our little mikdashes, in our beautiful holy homes. May they be filled with light and happiness and peace and joy and sweetness, just such sweetness all year. Bezrat Hashem. So again, a Gemar Chatima to all of you. And until next time in my sukkah, Bezrat Hashem, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Goodbye for now.